loyal sons. We'll get 'em on the run, boys. We got 'em on the run. Yes, we are loyal sons. We'll get 'em on the run, boys. We got 'em on the run.
Hey everyone, welcome back to HLS TV. I'm Moran here with Ryan Ritter, and tonight we have a special bowl game edition of HLS TV, and I think Ryan and I have a sudden urge to visit Nashville.
Yes, definitely have. And I walked in, tried to convince my wife. Just walked in without context. So, how does New Year's in Nashville sound? Like, oh, okay, what's going on in Nashville? It's like, oh, there may be a football game there, December 30th. Like, oh yeah, of course, it has to do something with Notre Dame. I knew it. So
Yep.
yeah, she's learning. She knows.
Yep. So Music City Bowl in Nashville against LSU.
Yes, and considering the other options that were on the table for the rest of the ACC Tier 1, I like the draw. It's good. It's a new location. It's not the Pinstripe Bowl, which is good. I know a lot of people worried about that, but it worked out well. I like the draw for LSU because it's an SEC, not just an SEC team, but SEC West team, but one to where, I don't know, I know I'm kind of an eternal optimist at some points, but for teams in the SEC West that we could have drawn that are bowl eligible, you know, LSU's, I think it might match up okay. So how are you feeling about it right now?
I like the matchup because I think that LSU is a storied program, just like Notre Dame, so I think it's going to be exciting to watch. They're a good team, but I think they're definitely beatable. So I like it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited because maybe I get a little bit of personal revenge because this was my last game as a Notre Dame student, was going to the Sugar Bowl. And Bourbon Street was fun, but the game was not. So hopefully, and I know there's already some people rolling their eyes, like, you know, and I've already had a handful of people tell me on Twitter, it's like, oh, they're already going to lose. It's like, well, you know, LSU's got some issues of their own, and there's a reason why they're in this tier of the bowls right now.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, before the show, went and looked at some things because we know their defense is good, and we'll get into that. But for their offensive side of the ball, they're ranked 77th in total offense right now. So very, very mediocre. But the rushing game is good, so that will be the big challenge for the Irish. They are ranked 29th in rushing yards per game, so that's going to be the big, especially we need to get that front seven healthy, so that'll be the big test. Right. Passing, though, this is where LSU falls apart because teams that have had success against LSU, they make you, it's like, okay, try to throw over the top of us and see if you can beat us that way because we'll eventually stop your rushing attack somewhere down the field. And they're 116th in the nation in passing. So not so good on offense. And that's kind of what I like in this, is that Notre Dame's defense, you know, while, you know, much maligned, has a lot of injuries, because LSU kind of has the tire fire element in their offense, I think Notre Dame may just match up decently with them.
Yes, I agree. I think that LSU is is a good matchup for Notre Dame. I think they're comparable in several aspects. Their offense, as you said, can be kind of iffy at times. They kind of have problems at quarterback, so I could see our defense matching well against their offense, even though our defense definitely needs a little bit of work. But I think it'll be a good one to watch, and I think there's good possibility for us to you know, match up against them.
Yeah, and the good news is the defense is going to get healthy, and that was the big thing, is that you know, maybe we should just, and really that was the one argument I actually would legitimately kind of listen to, is, well, we need to rest and get healthy. I was like, well, we got a month, you know, I think we'll get healthy, and Kelly is already saying that as well right now. Today they had a kind of, I don't know if it was a conference call or press conference, but he did say that Greer Martini, Sheldon Day, Max Redfield, Cody Riggs, all likely to be healthy for the bowl game. Jay Hayes, whose red shirt we thought was burned and wasted, they think he still may get some playing time, limited, but could still have a role. And Daniel Cage's knee should be okay, and that's huge, especially with the, like I mentioned, it's the rushing offense, which is going to be key. So getting especially that much help in the front seven, getting that many people back, that's going to be huge. And Sheldon Day has to be by far the biggest get back in that piece because he has been playing so good, you know, for most of the year. So if we get a healthy Day back, that's going to be so great. I think will help us a lot. And obviously, getting Redfield back in the secondary is going to help monumentally as well.
Yeah, that makes you feel even better. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, Austin Collinsworth, the other injury note I've missed, Austin Collinsworth, I don't think any surprise, not looking good for him to get back for the bowl game. Honestly, I'm at the point with him. It's like, dude, just sit on the bench because your next injury is going to be catastrophic at this point. So I don't want to see that poor guy hurt anymore. Another note for injuries, it's important to say that Brian Kelly isn't accepting this as an excuse for the way the defense played at the end of the season. And he said directly, this is a quote from today regarding the USC game in particular, to give up 6 touchdown passes is absolutely unacceptable under any circumstances. So, Kelly knows that there's issues. It's good that we're getting healthy. Hopefully people will come back on fire. And on the offensive side of the ball, Brian Kelly said directly, and this is another quote from him today, we underperformed as coaches on the offensive side of the ball and as players. So, it's everybody. It's coaches, it's players. So hopefully getting healthy. This could be quite a month of practice for these guys, so hopefully everybody comes in on fire. Because, what a statement would it be if this team comes and we see a completely different Notre Dame team against LSU? That would be such great momentum.
Yeah.
Going into 2015, obviously it doesn't, remove some of the terrible things that happened. It's not going to take the Northwestern loss away. It's a good note to end the season because, honestly, can it get much worse? That's kind of where I'm at right now.
No, I agree. It's kind of like what we were saying last episode when we were talking about, just having the discussion if we should go or not. We were just saying, going to a bowl game would be huge just to see if Notre Dame can even kind of fix some of the problems that we're having. And it sounds like Notre Dame football team, and led by Brian Kelly, is taking responsibility, so that's good. And I think, it's going to be important to just see if they can fix some of these problems. Like he's saying, the defense shouldn't be that bad. All right, agreed. So let's practice and see if they can come back better. So I'm kind of excited. I really am.
Yeah, and I'm excited too. And like I said, part of that's I'm overly optimistic when it comes to Notre Dame football at times. I'll be able to objectively look things after it happens, but leading up to a game, I think I get more excited than maybe I probably should. But that's just the way I am.
I'm far enough removed from USC and just the USC game, just the rest of the season in general, that now I'm excited, more Notre Dame football. So
yeah, because we're not going to get any more until I forget if next season starts in August or September off the top of my head, but. I know it's so far away, so let's get one more game in, and
yeah, exactly. Let's have it be a good memory to carry us through that off season. So
right, and what I like right now is that this isn't politician Brian Kelly talking right now, or at least I didn't get that. I was watching this through Twitter, and I wasn't really able to. I don't know if Watch ND had anything. I wasn't able to watch it if they did. So hopefully I'm able to actually watch this because I would love to see what Kelly's demeanor is like if he was at a presser or that type of situation, because Kelly is always super middle of the road, very political, doesn't want to throw too much blame one direction or the other. This one's like everything sucks.
Right, I was going to say that almost sounds like that almost sounds like opposite political Brian Kelly, because he is straight up saying no, they did something wrong, we did something wrong. So yeah, I think that's good to hear though, because it's true. So it's good to I think we're all on the same page, and that's good. Fans, coaches, good. Let's fix it.
Yeah. Everyone wants to fix it. The words are good, so now it's okay. We really need to see it in action because this is the first time we've seen Brian Kelly up against this wall. He's been very good in November. So to see him fall apart like this at the end of the season, we're usually used to things ending on a good note. Even if it is a bowl loss, you still have an entire month of good football, and not a month of terrible football. So this is so unlike anything we've seen yet. And I really want to see how this very young team responds to that, because that's an incredible amount of adversity to overcome.
Yep.
Well, speaking of adversity, I guess this is a good time to mention Everett Golson on the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who the starting quarterback is. Brian Kelly said...
Dun.
Yeah, dun. But Kelly said that there will be competition, but he didn't say that the job was wide open, which I found kind of weird. So I guess the way I took that was that, Zaire and Golson are going to be taking the same kind of reps 1 and 2, or with the 1s and 2s rather, or with the 1s, not with the 1s and 2s. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, they're going to be taking equal reps as the number 1 QB, but when it comes to the bowl game, it's kind of, who knows? Maybe it's Golson's show. Maybe Golson gets pushed, or maybe it's Zaire. But I take not wide open to mean that this doesn't mean that whoever plays in the bowl game is going to be my starting quarterback, regardless if it's Golson, regardless if it's Zaire. They may not be the starter in 2015, which I think it's good. And both quarterbacks really, I mean, they need to push each other right now. Golson, I think he's got a high ceiling. I still think we haven't seen the best Golson yet, but he's got to get there. I think Dane Chris had a high ceiling too, and he never got there. So it's put up or shut up time for Golson right now, and Zaire's going to be hungry and wanting to take that spot from him. I mean, I know everybody's probably good friends in the locker room, out off the field, but this is the time to show what you got. This is why they both came to Notre Dame. They want to be the starting QB.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Brian Kelly won't have any trouble pulling one for the other in the bowl game. I would hope not. So I think it's, like you said, put up or shut up time for Everett Golson. If he does start, I would think that if he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, that he'd get pulled pretty quickly. Yeah,
without a doubt. So, and like I said, this is me being optimistic, saying all the right things. It's got the right feeling to it. He's doing what he should. The quarterback job should be open. We're getting people back healthy. And Kelly, one thing I really want to see is, how much is Kelly really questioning everything? Are we going to see a different kind of offensive philosophy? Are we going to go? I guess this is a good time to bring up the LSU defensive stats, because they have a very interesting hole in their defense, because people have been tweeting out they have a really good passing defense, and they're dead on. Number one in pass efficiency defense, which is, basically taking an opposing quarterback rating. And number 4 when you're doing passing yards in defense. So elite, absolutely elite for the passing game. Now, their weakness, if you want to call it that, is the rushing defense. They're 38th in the nation. So they're not bad. They're not great either.
Right, but that seems like the weakness that you could kind of exploit a little bit, and I think that definitely stuck out to Notre Dame fans, especially the ones that are always calling for us to run the ball.
Yeah, it's run the damn ball time, probably.
Exactly. So it's like, hey, this is perfect, and I noticed that too, because it's kind of like, well, this is the coaching staff. Like, it's their chance to kind of, are they going to take advantage of that? Like, you would assume that they should. So I would think we'd see a little bit more of that. It would make sense.
It would make sense, and really, we got playmakers there. I'm number one Terry and Folsom fan. I'm still gonna trumpet that thing over and over as much as possible.
Go for it. Yeah, then even Malik Zaire and Greg Bryant had a good thing going in the USC game. So.
Right, and if Zaire does happen to be the starting quarterback, and Kelly did say also that he's not looking to start the best quarterback against LSU system. He wants what he wants at quarterback. But
interesting.
Yeah, if that quarterback happens to be Zaire, though, I mean, Kelly's stupid to look at the playbooks like, okay, I got a guy that can run the read option. I'm gonna have him do it like crazy, because, and especially if Zaire is a quarterback, you definitely don't want to start airing it out against probably the premier passing defense in the nation. That would be suicide. So
exactly, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I know, overall in the season, I looked at the numbers, and run and pass it's almost neck and neck. Now, this is, of course, saying that some rushes are scrambles and sacks just because of the way colleges keep stats, but there is a pretty decent balance with run and pass. Obviously, the question is, okay, your quarterback is having turnover issues. Shouldn't you lean more on your tailbacks and see what they can do? And honestly, that's a good argument. I don't know if I could. I really can't say that's a terrible idea, because sure makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me too. So.
And so there's probably people that's like, yes, they want to run the damn ball. Finally.
Yeah. Well, again, at least just to, like you said, you're not going to want to go in there right off the bat airing the ball out. So I think that would at least give the team confidence too. If the offense could go in there, run the ball, start to that wears their defense down too. So if you can kind of get in there, start doing that, then you kind of maybe get a little bit more, jazzed up a little bit. Maybe take a couple chances once you establish a little bit of an offense. And I think you need to do that running first. So yeah, I mean, I think obviously they're going to pass still, but I don't think we should rely on that just from numbers.
Right, and you still got to take your shots downfield, and that's one thing I do like about Kelly is that And one of the reasons I'm assuming he took as many shots as he did against USC, even though Golson was all over the map, was because we had people wide open all over the field.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're Brian Kelly, I can see that it's like, okay, I've seen Golson can't be missing everybody by 5-10 yards every play. He's got to hit one of these, right? And he just never did. So, and by that time, the game's so far out of reach anyway. After you do the
that you have to be throwing these deep balls, just crossing your fingers, hoping that you're going to get someone. So it'd be nice. That's when you hope the run game works. That way, you don't have to completely live or die by those deep balls. You can just kind of throw some of those just to test it out. So.
Yeah, and so it's going to be different. I really want to see how this offense attacks LSU. And really, let's be honest, the huge knock on Notre Dame across the nation is that we don't play the same physical kind of football and SEC is always the one that gets thrown out there. And I'm telling you what, and as far as SEC teams that we could play that would be that physical stereotype, it's LSU. That's been the way they've won football games this year. They aren't putting up the same amount of points as Auburn or as Georgia or even Alabama. Alabama's offense has been incredibly potent. LSU has made their living off of defense and running the football. So if Notre Dame can beat this team in the trenches, I mean, that's going to wake up a whole lot. That's going to open up a lot of eyes across the nation. I don't think it's completely going to get people to forget about what happened at the national title game in 2012, but it's a step in the right direction, and honestly,
completely agree.
Yeah, and I would feel great, program-wise. We can play that kind of football, and maybe, Kelly's like, okay, this is what Notre Dame is. This is how Notre Dame should play. I'm not at Cincinnati. I don't have to do, super spread offense all the time. I can run right at people with the guys I got. So
right, and especially considering the way the season has gone, this would be a Notre Dame team beating LSU after, a amount of losses I don't even want to think about. We lost to Alabama after a perfect season. That's one thing. I mean, it was horrible, but think about coming back and beating, even if LSU isn't comparable to that Alabama team, just the fact that they come back from such a horrible end of the season, I think would be a statement in and of itself. So that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I like this matchup. It's got all the elements that I would want. It's an SEC team. It's a fairly respected SEC team. I think people in the know that watch SEC football, they're going to say it's like, okay, guys, you beat LSU. They're kind of down this year. Congratulations, hat tip, but not a big deal. But I think to the more casual, more common, fan, the one that just kind of flies by, that doesn't, go completely in depth, that's going to mean a lot. And really, that's where Notre Dame's perception is probably hurting the most, is with that kind of fan that, has the casual outlook on it. Not that we need to impress anybody else, but it would be nice to see that narrative turn a little bit with the win here. That's just the way I feel about it.
Yeah, no, it would be nice. I want to see the narrative turn in general for myself, but yeah.
Well, as long as we're speaking of narratives, I mean, obviously we will talk a lot about LSU on Her Little Sons. We're going to have so much time to dig into this, but the other big narrative and story right now is, we weren't the only bowl selection. There were some fairly important games selected today.
Yeah, there were.
Early this morning, even though it took a long time, like ESPN, do you really need 3 hours worth of a show to do this? That was ridiculous. Yeah, it's like, oh, here's the matchup. We don't have the top 25, and we'll have it in 2 hours. So that was weird. But anyway, the College Football Playoff Committee selected, all the New Year's Six Bowls in the top 4 teams, and the biggest eyebrow raiser was that Ohio State jumped both Big 12 teams, and then kind of in a trolling nod that, Baylor, we heard you, head-to-head matters. Baylor gets ranked number 5 ahead of TCU, who lands at number 6. So Big 12 out, and I even said this on my radio show on Friday. I actually said, you're not helping your teams by being so passive about this Big 12. Pick a champion, because they said conference championships matter. They've said it doesn't matter where you were ranked the week before. They said we'll wipe the slate clean. Obviously, it didn't look like they did it every week, but they said that because they knew in the back of their mind they wanted that out, and that's what they did. They wiped the slate clean, and they didn't want to put either co-champion of the Big 12 in there. They put Ohio State in, which honestly, I think in a vacuum, if that ranking comes out and you don't see the previous week's rankings, everybody's cool. But now, because you've seen week to week before, it starts to get you questioning. And from a Notre Dame perspective, is independence now a problem? So how do you feel? A lot of loaded topics. What was kind of your take on today, nationally with the playoff committee as a whole and Notre Dame?
Well, like you said, how you mentioned that you said on your radio show on Friday that you didn't that the championship was important, or the champion, Big 12 needed a champion. Well, one, the Big 12 came out and said that they are going to consider having a championship now that they need to reevaluate. And that definitely, I was like, well, I don't know. Now I'm worried about Notre Dame. Notre Dame would have to, it would seem that Notre Dame would have to be undefeated. Because I don't know if a one-loss Notre Dame team would be able to get in now with the way that they seem to be ranking the teams. So I don't know.
And it's interesting, I think, with the way this season played out, a theoretical one-loss Notre Dame only lost to FSU, I don't think there's any way they're kept out of the playoff personally, because your one loss is literally to a playoff team. So,
True.
I mean, how can you leave that team out, especially when you have no FCS on the schedule? And you can see strength of schedule, it started to weed out. Ohio State actually had the stronger strength of schedule, and I think their championship game helped that a lot, though, because it's not like Ohio State didn't play in FCS at the beginning of the season.
Right.
They did lose to a Power 5. Was their one loss was Virginia Tech. They lost out of conference to a Power 5. But it's also one of those things to where it still seems losing early helps so much.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So
I think it's always better to lose early.
Right. So and again with TCU and Baylor, TCU lost earlier, and then Baylor went on lost to a not so great West Virginia team, soon after. So that always seems to be a way people work, regardless of how they try to throw their bias out as much as they can. That seems to be the way they do these polls, is that losing early seems to help. But yeah, I mean, it almost.
Yeah, because all the articles I'm reading, it's like their argument was that Ohio State got stronger as they went on. So, and people they have short memories. So it's like, oh, well, they lost, but they came back. And it's like, okay, so. And
then they made a strong statement at the end by hanging nearly 60 on Wisconsin. So, yeah.
Right.
And Jeff Long said that. He said they finished so strong, and it was a case of Ohio State moving up rather than everyone else moving down, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so you said you don't know if Notre Dame would have to be undefeated to get in. I mean, we kind of knew that to begin with, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, so I guess it really doesn't change anything. I guess now it just makes it more makes it more evident. I think we all knew that, but now it's like, oh wow, we really know that,
Yeah, so which begs the question, do we say, okay, we know what we got to do, to hell with how it makes it easier. Do we go down the path of whatever, we'll just win all our football games because they're not leaving an undefeated Notre Dame team out, or do we decide to start hedging our bets and call it the ACC and say, hey, got another team that wants to come in here? We can add a couple teams into this division here. What do you think? I
mean, I don't know. I like our independence right now, but I mean, you can tell that Notre Dame isn't. I think it's kind of obvious, I guess, that I think they're definitely keeping that possibility open. I mean, hello, every sport's in the ACC, but Notre Dame, we kind of have bowl tie-ins already, but, we still have our independence right now. I think it's definitely like, hello, like if they wanted to join the ACC, they totally could, / maybe considering that for the future. I think they definitely have them lined, they have themselves aligned in case they need to. I don't think that would happen right away, nor do we need to. I mean, it's the first year of this, so I wouldn't jump into that right away, but I definitely think that they know that may be a possibility and they're ready if they have to. But could you imagine? I don't know how people would think about the whole not being independent thing. That's kind of Notre Dame's thing.
Yeah, and I like it.
I do too.
And I'm one of the ones to where I like it, but I don't like it so much that I want it to start costing Notre Dame things.
Exactly.
But, right. I mean, the biggest thing to me is, number one, first and foremost, I want to keep Southern Cal every year. I mean, that's number one, and that's where independence helps. Navy, I'm not as much on board with that as, and a lot of people I think fall in that boat too. It has nothing to do with how I, feel about playing Navy year to year. Is that if I have a choice of a traditional game to lose, it's Navy. It's without a doubt it's Navy, just because if I got to pick the best one, again, it's thinking about what would move Notre Dame forward.
Yeah.
Because even if Stanford, starts falling apart, the reason you have that West Coast game is because you can go back and forth. It's year after year. You're in Southern Cal or you're in Stanford. So that's huge for recruiting, because as soon as the game's over, they're out on the road talking to all the West Coast kids, trying to do one of the last pushes there.
Exactly. I mean, definitely the big thing about Independence is the scheduling. That's the most attractive part.
Yeah, but I mean, and I like where our scheduling is going, especially into the future. And that's the other hurdle, is that because of the way we schedule, we have to do things so far down the road, and we're announcing games, 2020 and 2015, 2025, things like that. I mean, we have to. You have to lock those games up, because after a while, and especially, I think the writing's on the wall for these other teams. Forget about Notre Dame and Independence for a second. Other teams are having a out-of-conference scheduling crisis too, because they're realizing it's like, okay, so apparently this strength of schedule thing really does matter, because just look at how hard Baylor and TCU got hosed. So what's going to happen, I guess, when right now everybody's somewhat on equal footing, because everybody's kind of scheduling the same way. The three teams that aren't are Notre Dame, UCLA, and Southern Cal. We're the three teams that aren't scheduling FCS, and we do out-of-conference Power 5 opponents. We'll play weaker non-Power 5s, but they're not FCS. So, but everybody else is going to be on that same playing field that's at the top of the rankings right now. So what happens then when, say Alabama and Oregon, change their schedule around, and it's mostly Power 5s? And the SEC is already trying to move that way, saying you have to, as a member of the SEC, you have to schedule an out-of-conference Power 5. That's the way it's going to be now. So when all that starts falling into place, it's going to be weird to see how it moves out then, because then I guess the next question would be okay, when people start playing the same schedule that Notre Dame does year in and year out, where there aren't these, as Kelly would say, glorified buys, what happens then? Is Notre Dame actually in a good position for being used to this? Because who knows, maybe now there's more 2-loss teams and one-loss teams, because people were scheduling the easiest route to remain undefeated. And it kind of goes back to the Big 12. The reason the Big 12 is 10 teams, and any Texas and OU fan that hears this is going to hate me, is because those two schools who had the most power saw how it was lining up. It's like, well, this is a pretty sweet deal. We round robin in the conference, and then we schedule, little cupcakes, off to the side for our out-of-conference games, and we're cool. That is such an easy route to go undefeated. I think this was a big message that, okay, yeah, that's a good route to go undefeated. You better hope you go undefeated, otherwise you're closed.
Yeah, exactly, which just further, kind of solidifies what I said before about, it's the first year of this. So Notre Dame, I think their independence is fine right now, because like you said, other teams have just as much of a crisis. So I think if Notre Dame keeps doing what they're doing, and we have solid, really good, strong schedules, then I don't think they'll have to worry, in the near future. I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's good to at least have the conversation, and this isn't one of those, and because when we've brought up independence before, and when the conference realignment was going on, now we're seeing, it's a different conversation. I don't really know how to describe it, because the same concerns were being talked about in regards to what was then a hypothetical playoff and things along those lines. But if the committee really, sticks, we see year in and year out, they stick to this, man, you got to have your conference title, and it needs to be a conference title game. You need to have a 13th game, or maybe Notre Dame goes outside the box to get some kind of, I forgot who put this on Twitter, but I'm like, damn, this is a brilliant idea. They said, apply for an NCAA waiver for a 13th game to where you have an invitational to where Notre Dame plays the Big 12 champion every year. Like, hey, that's something.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever work, but I mean,
it's a good thought.
It's a good thought, yeah. But I'm sure that will piss the ACC off to no end, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting conversation going forward, and the Big 12 is already saying, yeah, we're like you've said, they're changing what they think. It's the NCAA hasn't moved on the 10-game championship waiver, so maybe we'll have to bring in 2 schools, and it's not like they're not out there. BYU's been wanting in, Cincinnati's been wanting in, Louisville even wanted in before the ACC scooped them up. So there's ways for them to get to 12, and of course then it becomes it's like, well, then what happens first? Does playoff expansion happen first, or does Notre Dame need to start aligning themselves with the conference because
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the first year, so we're like just now getting a glimpse into how this committee's thinking and what they want. So it'll be interesting to see how things start to
they can change it next year.
I don't even sure know what they want, but
yeah, and they can say next, it's like, oh yeah, well, 2014 isn't how we're going to operate anymore. We looked at the way we did it, and here's how. I mean, they could go. Like I say, if it's a clean slate to them every single time, then
Right.
they can do whatever the hell they want to. And
Well,
really,
you can tell that because humans were involved. It was very. I mean, you could tell that the weekly rankings clearly didn't mean much, except for like. I mean, they did, but to an extent, you could tell that they were definitely generating media and generating talk, and humans are involved, so that's going to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if things change next year. They could pull a, well, because of last year, and people were upset about this, we decided to do it this way this year, and that might not come out till the very last week. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, and I think the most humorous thing I saw was that because people still compiled BCS rankings, even though they weren't official, everybody still has. The computer polls are still out there publicly. Obviously, you have, the Harris poll still out there. You still have the coaches poll out there. 1 through 4 in the BCS was 1 through 4 for the playoff committee. So it's not like you got any change or any different. It was the same freaking team. So
which is right. Yeah.
I think the order was different. I'd have to go back. I actually think I may have it. I'm almost positive the order. I think Florida State was ranked a little higher. Yeah, here it is. So. The only change would have been Florida State and Oregon getting flipped from 2 to 3, vice versa. So that's the only change.
It is interesting. Yeah. Huh.
But you're right. It's year 1. Who knows what they're going to say in year 2? Who knows if they start tinkering with things? What I did think was interesting and I was not expecting this, was that the Big 12's like, yeah, we'll take a look at how we change how we operate. I don't think this is a good argument for playoff expansion yet. I thought that was very interesting because I already know the media's turning those wheels right now to get it moving, but it seems like everybody that's got their contract interest right now is holding the party line right now. So who knows? I don't think we're going to have too much movement as far as that goes right now.
Right. Yeah, who knows?
It's going to happen. I don't see any way where it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun bowl season, fun off season. I like a lot of a lot of the matchups. I think they're great, so it's going to be fun.
I agree. Although Ohio State fans are already annoying me, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, they got to be nervous because if you're on your third quarterback, that's your third stringer, and I don't know about going to Alabama with those kind of odds, man.
Yeah, we've been there, done that. Well, not with those kind of odds, but we've played Alabama, so I don't know. We know how that feels.
Yeah, unfortunately. So that would be humorous. As much as I would kind of like to see, especially with Florida State and Oregon. If they do get blown out, man, can't you just imagine, TCU and Bill, well, good thing you didn't let us in.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next argument.
Yes, definitely. Twitter will be a fun place during the bowl season.
Yeah. Somebody's going to get hosed every year. I think that's the most important thing to remember is, we can until we expand this thing to where we have the regular season structured as a strange elimination style playoff. It's going to happen every year. It's always going to be somebody. Heck, I mean, even in the bowl system, poor, UAB, their football program gets canned and no bowl wants to touch them. So, good job, lower tier bowls, to where you had a chance to really make a statement because you would have had people coming out in force of that. Just think of all the media attention that would have gotten. But we're not going to anger, somebody else in the University of Alabama system. That whole situation stinks. So somebody gets hosed every time, no matter what.
It's true. Yeah, definitely kinks to work out, I guess. But yeah, I don't know.
Fun little episode.
It was. I'm just excited for more football, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we have.
So we can delve into it as it gets closer, so.
Yeah, and I think we got like 12 games before there's even any more. Well, beyond our Army-Navy this weekend, obviously, but we kind of get a little break. There's one college football game, and then you get a nice, easy break for a little while, and then
watch everybody else. else.
The joyous, there's a football game every day and random time slots thing going on.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. So it's
So nice. I know. It's awesome. Like Christmas come early.
Yeah, so next episode of HLS TV, don't know exactly which state specifically. Maybe the Sunday before the bowl game, depends on how our schedules work out. So we'll take a look at it. We'll see what makes sense. We'll give you a good in-depth preview. Of course, we will be back the Sunday afterwards for sure, talking about what happened, and hopefully, please God, we're going to be happy about that episode.
Please. I'll do anything.
All right, well,
I'm bargaining already.
Unless you got anything else, it's all I got from my end here in Texas.
No, go Irish.
All right, go Irish. Beat Tigers.
Yeah, sounds good.
Since we are a loyal son.